Hello and welcome to the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast. I'm Ronald Quaroni, your Saskatchewan mortgage professional, and during the summertime, there is no better place to be than the province's north. Today, we discuss that real estate market with Vaughn Krywicki, a realtor from Saskatoon. Hope you enjoy.
You're listening to the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast, where we chat with real estate experts from across the province to learn what's happening in the real estate market. Here's your host, Ron Quaroni.
Hello and welcome to the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast. My name is Ron Quaroni, and we're very happy to be joined today by Vaughn Krywicki, a realtor from Saskatoon. And Vaughn is going to be touching on a topic that a lot of people are going to love. We're talking about northern real estate. Before we do that, Vaughn, welcome to the program. Thanks so much for coming on today. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
For sure. Well, I guess first off, Ron, thanks for having me here, and to the viewers for tuning in. It's good to get on camera and work on getting comfortable doing something that I'm not so used to, so you may have to bear with me a little bit. I am a real estate agent located in Saskatoon, and I service the Saskatoon and area, as well as the Lakeland region, up where my family, my wife and I, we have a cabin property up at Candle Lake. So we have some interesting insights and things to talk about that we're going to go through here today, I guess.
You bet. So let's get right into it, Vaughn. When we're talking about cabins and cottages in the north, I know when I first kind of thought of that idea, I'm imagining this wooden cabin, no running water, no electricity. Can we touch on what kind of homes we actually see there?
For sure. These lake properties could be a small, quaint cabin in the woods, kind of like what you're describing there, or they could also be a multi-million-dollar showroom showcase that's fit for a magazine cover. There's actually 100,000 lakes in Saskatchewan, in our province, which is truly astonishing. So there's so much to explore. I've only touched just the iceberg of it, but I'm excited to get out there and explore more. These properties, they don't necessarily have to be lakefront. They could, or, right on the water. That's sort of the typical thing that people talk or think about when we're talking about lake properties. But they could also be in a larger community, of course, depending on the lake size. You could be on a street or a crescent off the lake, or you could also be, in an acreage property treed in the forest kind of thing. Some of these cabins or lake properties, they can only be used for 3 seasons, but most newer properties are winterized, and people buy lake properties for many different reasons.
So when we're looking at that, if someone is going to, I want that second home, is there, when people are looking to buy that lake property, is it family time? Is it that escape from the city? Why, in your experience, do people buy lake properties?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of hit it right bang on there. Common theme, it mostly is for a summer getaway, spend some time with family. Although people use lake properties year round. I know that my wife and I do. We enjoy it both winter and summer, both for various different reasons, right? Sometimes in the winter, there's just less to do, and you're just looking for something to get away. And it's also quite often a little bit quieter too. So, people enjoy water sports. There's quite often like hiking or quadding or snowmobiling, or you get out on the lake and do some fishing, try your hand at that, all kinds of stuff. It's just about getting away, making memories, and spending time with the people that you care about. Sometimes people go to the lake by themselves too. It's a great time to reflect and, kind of dig deeper. Great time to read one of those books for one of your book reviews there. So yeah,
That's a great point. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you can really get in the zone.
As you're talking there, I was just talking with a friend on Friday, and he was saying how basically he moves his family up to Emerald Lake for the summer, and they spend 2 months out there, and it really does become a second home and a secondary place for that. And I think COVID has kind of finalized some of that stuff for us as people are traveling less and going out and about. Are we seeing a demand for more second home properties like this, Vaughn?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. The demand has certainly gone up significantly. Um, Before COVID, the demand was fairly steady. You know, buyers were out there, but they were a little bit more conservative or cautious. Um, Coming into the pandemic, we were just starting to see some small increases in our real estate market provincially in terms of prices and activity. So our economy was, doing okay, but not necessarily great from what I saw. So a lot of times, a second home is considered a little bit of a luxury item, right? So, uh, you know, if it's not there, you're being a little bit more cautious and you kind of stick away. However, since the pandemic, everybody has been hanging out a lot more locally within their own province. They seem to feel a little bit safer, being, closer to home, a few hours here, there, whatever. It's still the same bubble or circle, so to speak, but they still have a desire to get away. So a lake property or a resort is a great opportunity to do that within Saskatchewan. It's just something fun to do. And so the what's happening right now is that the supply is not keeping up with the demand that is increased. So it's creating a little bit of a rush on some of the properties that come up. You have to act quickly at times.
Is it hard for supply when you're talking about these northern properties? Because maybe building costs and it's maybe a lot of times self builds. If you're clearing out the lot, you're doing all your own development. It's not quite
Mhm.
the same as development here in the city.
Um, yeah, it is a little bit different, although, you get into some of the resort communities and there's contractors and those type of people up there as well that are readily available. But yeah, you're right in a lot of ways. Sometimes, it's more of a do-it-yourselfer type mentality when you're out there. It's a part of the process, part of the relaxation sometimes, I guess, go to the lake to work.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about actual numbers of properties, Vaughn, do we have anything to quantify the demand for these homes, like a year over year, or do just some anecdotal evidence?
Oh, for sure, absolutely. It's gone up big time. When we talk about the market that I'm most familiar with is which Candle Lake, where we have our cabin at. Um, and it's a good market to pull statistics from because it's a reasonable size where you can get some reliability from. So for the past few years, before COVID or pre-pandemic, whatever you want to call it, there was usually around 50 homes for sale at this time of year, or 50 cabin properties coming into the peak season here, April, May, June, July, where people are rearing up. It's nice. You want to get out and shop for those properties. And throughout the year, about 25 or so of those cabins would sell each year. So, you had to have, that goes back to where you had to have your pricing on point, your marketing on point, all that kind of stuff, which you still do right now. But it's totally different. This year, right now, currently today, there's only 22 cabin properties for sale in our market, as opposed to the 50 or so that would have been there a couple of years prior. Now, and also adding to that, there's also 75 properties that have sold in the past year alone. So that's like a 200% increase. which is dramatic. What's even more impressive, you were talking about building and all that kind of stuff, is the amount of lot sales that have happened, just vacant land where people are purchasing and planning to build or hold for a short term. And, as things come, like you say, clear the lot and whatever else, move forward with that. There's been 56 lot sales in the Canada Lake area in the past year, whereas normally you'd typically be seeing only about a dozen or so. So there's going to be there's going to be a building boom coming on, even with everybody talking about these increased construction costs and lumber prices and the sheet of OSB just going straight through the moon,
Right.
all that kind of stuff. Yeah, everything's getting scooped up.
If you were to put a few defining factors on this, Vaughn, what's causing this big surge to get to the lake?
And, we kind of talked about it already. It's just looking for something to do, and people are seeing the value of it right now. I think it's going to continue for some time, like get to the lake even after this pandemic ends. I know that our province has a plan to reopen, so to speak, right? And with the increased vaccination effort, all that type of stuff, we're talking about other travel opportunities that are going to open up. However, I feel that there's going to be a good chunk of people that are going to continue to stay local, vacation locally, whether they've, found love in their lakefront property or vacation, whether you own or even if you just rent a place for a week or go camping, whatever, you name it, right? It's just getting out there. And it's just going to be a total rejuvenation. Myself, I can't wait to go on that hot vacation, but it'll come in due time.
On a personal note, I don't want to make it sound too romantic, but your relationship with your cabin, did it change during COVID due to the world we were living in? And did it become a more special place?
Yeah, in a lot of ways. I mean, personally, we always had a bit of a love affair with, going up to the lake and spending time with my wife and my son there, and bringing friends and family up. Although we've done quite a bit less of that as of recently for obvious reasons, but just for ourselves, it's just a place to go and check out and reflect.
It really is a beautiful area of the country. And if you haven't had the opportunity to go and explore northern Saskatchewan, you definitely should do so. Vaughn, when we're
Yeah.
talking about folks who have now the ability to work from home, they work at a job where it's online, they can do it from the computer, they don't necessarily have to go into the office. Does this affect the lake property lifestyle? And do we see any shifting of that too, that more people who maybe started to work from home will do so in a picturesque setting?
Oh, for sure. Who wouldn't want to work at the lake, right? You can get out there, be productive, and go water skiing in the evening. Why not? The ability to work from home has certainly increased throughout the pandemic, as more office settings have been kind of closed down or minimized. Some of them have opened up a little bit, but I think it's going to be a lot of flexibility going forward. So the demand to work from home has driven up the demand for a lot of smaller centers within Saskatchewan, lake property included, of course. You have to be connected to reliable internet and phone communications, so that does potentially eliminate some of the most northern areas of our province. But I've heard stories myself personally, even from high up executives, business owners, all that type of thing, who would have fought all this technology, meeting on a Zoom call, just tooth and nail. Whereas now they've somewhat been forced to dig into it out of necessity and kind of got the hang of it now, hosting those types of meetings and how efficient they can be. And they're just loving it, right? Why not host a meeting, weekly sales meeting from the lake or your own cabin property, and then do whatever else after. It's totally productive, way more
Right.
efficient.
A lot of flexibility with your time, and with that comes a lot of freedom to live where you want to live and kind of do what you'd like to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So one more prediction from you, Vaughn. Where is the price of lake property going? Are we going to see a slowdown after we have this really busy session here? Or are we just going to
Yeah,
see this become more of a trend?
for sure. Well, I mean, prices have already gone up already, depending on the area, and they are a little bit skewed to. When you look at some of the statistics, some of the prices have gone up on average of up to around 30%. However, I mean that's quite significant since before the pandemic. However, what's happened in a lot of areas is higher end properties have been selling, whereas before the pandemic, again, it came down to people being a little bit more conservative, purchasing up to and around that $300,000 to $350,000 mark as a second home. Whereas now there's been many properties 500,000 plus that have traded. So I think people have a lot more confidence in our market now. And we're talking about going back to normal and reopening Saskatchewan, but the lake demand is going to continue. It's my personal predictions are that it's going to be very stable, and people are still going to continue to spend a little bit more time locally over the next few years. And we might not see those crazy spikes going forward, but it should kind of roll with the inflation and at like a healthy level.
Excellent. So someone's watching this and they're like, I'm convinced. I want to get into some lake property. I want to look at some stuff. Maybe I'm even looking for a house in Saskatoon. How can they get in
Yeah,
contact with you, Vaughn?
yeah, for sure. Well, you're more than welcome to call or text me anytime. My phone's always on. You can reach me at 306-381-9161 or online on my website at homesbyvaughn.com or on social media at Homes by Vaughn. So it's fairly simple. Just look me up. You just type my name in Google. Boy, it'll just blow up.
Excellent. And before we let you go today, Vaughn, we got a real stickler of a question. If you could go
Yeah.
back and give a younger version of yourself some advice, what advice would that be?
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask me this question. Watching some of your other interviews and podcasts, and so I've personally been helping people buy and sell homes since 2010, which is literally over a decade ago. But it seems like yesterday in a lot of ways. Time flies when you're having fun, I guess they say. But if I had to do one thing that I feel would have been different than how I approached it initially, would be to get a mentor. Now, I had a lot of people throughout my career that I bounced ideas off and relied on, but I feel as though you can never soak it up enough from someone who's seen it, done it, and all that type of thing, as much as possible, right? Really just dig in, ask the questions, and get at it. Just offer to help, right? That's how you learn. You learn by doing. And of course, don't necessarily focus on the results. Focus on the business producing type of activities. The results will always come. And put people first. We're in a people business, and you always got to put people over transactions, because you and I, we're both young professionals, and it's a long game. So there's a real bright future ahead if you have an abundance mindset.
Wonderful advice. And I think that goes for real estate agents, mortgage brokers, or anyone out there who works on a people-to-people basis. That's putting them first will serve you well as you go through your career.
Yeah.
Excellent. Vaughn, I really appreciate your time, your knowledge, your experience. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Thanks again to Vaughn for coming on the program today. If you have any home buying or selling needs, be sure to reach out to Vaughn. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the like and subscribe button. I'm Ron Quaroni, your Saskatchewan mortgage professional. See you next time.
This has been the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast. If you like this episode, find more information and episodes on our Facebook and YouTube pages. If you'd like to be a guest or have a conversation you'd like to learn more about, let us know by messaging the show on Facebook. Thanks for listening.